There you go.
Good.
So I wanted to look at the last phrase in the Mishnah that we've been dwelling on now for a number of weeks. This is Rabbi Shimon HaKohen who's speaking, and the last of his words of wisdom and teaching are Va'al tihi rasha b'fnei atzmecha, which is translated in different ways. I have, be not wicked in your own esteem, or don't consider yourself wicked in your own eyes. And what is Rabbi Shapiro? He has something I think along those lines. What is he saying?
He says, do not despair when left to your own devices.
Okay, so that's different. That's, again, very interpretive, as so often he does. The word in Hebrew is rasha.
Rasha.
A rasha means a wicked person. But we have it, the famous time that we have that encounter that phrase is in the Haggadah, when we have the 4 children.
Yeah.
And one of them is and then we try to struggle with how do we deal with that, and how do we make it relevant, and how do we relate to that. But the literal meaning is a wicked person. However, we've had it before in a slightly different meaning, and that is, look at, if you can, chapter 1, and in my edition it's Mishnah 8, and it's Yehuda ben Tabai and Shimon ben Shetach received the tradition from the previous pair of sages. And Yehuda ben Tabai then says, do not make yourself like those people who arrange their arguments, their legal arguments. Don't be like an attorney, a lawyer. And then it says, if you are making judgment, if you are rendering judgment, and the 2 people in a dispute are standing before you, let them both be in your eyes like a rasha. Each one is a rasha. And when they leave you after the sentence is given, let them both be in your eyes like zakaim. So their rasha means someone who's convicted of a crime, guilty of a crime, and zakai means someone who is exonerated. So there the idea is when it's kind of like they're both guilty until proven innocent, right? When both of the people stand before you, before the decision is made, be skeptical, grill both of them. Don't think that one has the right answer and the other one doesn't. Both of them should be seen by you as being under suspicion or guilty. And then when you finally render judgment, then that's it, finished. The judgment is over, and both of them are now clean, right? Both of them are now exonerated, because if the person owed the other person $100, they pay the $100, and then it's quits for both of them. Everybody has a clean blank slate to go forward into the future. So the word rasha doesn't necessarily mean really actually essentially wicked, but to be judged, to be guilty of some wrongdoing, or something like that in a legal dispute. We have it already in the Torah itself, that when people come to the Beit Din, v'hitzdiku et hatzadik v'hirshu et harasha. Let them exonerate the innocent person, and let them convict the person who is guilty.
Okay.
So here, it's just, a little bit of a difference, but don't stand before yourself, right? It says bifnei atzmecha, standing before yourself, and judge yourself to be guilty, right? Judge yourself to be the guilty one. So what could this mean? What kind of ramifications in life would such a piece of guidance be talking about and lead to? Josie.
2 thoughts really come to mind. One is this is assuming that everyone accepts with gracious attitude the decision of the court,
Right, in that other Mishnah, right.
that you don't go around
Well,
still
it says
carrying.
in your eyes, in your eyes. In other words, you, the judge, you've rendered a judgment and then let it go. In
Oh,
other
it's
words,
not,
when you have decided that guy lied, he really did owe money, we've blown his cover, we've convicted him, we've made him pay the money, and guess what? He has now paid his debt to society. He has now
Praise
paid his debt to the other person. And I shouldn't keep dwelling on saying, oh, what a miserable SOB that guy was when he was in, in my court and he did this and that. Let it go.
so it's speaking to the judge, not the litigants. Okay.
Right.
And I misread it because I don't know of many situations where people graciously accept.
In other places, it says that also, that you need to accept the judgment that is being given
Okay.
and accept that the judges are not, partisan hacks.
Right, they're not favoring one above the other.
Yes, as we seem to be wondering about in our own judicial system today. So, yeah. So, but now he's saying about the person themselves, and nobody else is around. It's you judging yourself. You judging yourself.
Is that last line, do not despair?
So that's the way Rabbi Shapiro translates it. He's taking it as, the next step. If you judge yourself continuously as being wicked, evil, guilty, what hope is there for you? Right? So he's already answering this question. But he's taking it away from you to be able to actually think about it.
It makes me think of two people very close to me who were suicides. And the first line of Rabbi Shapiro's interpretive note is to despair is to be without hope.
Right.
You lose hope when you imagine you are other than the whole, separate from the one who manifests the many. That really struck me as very thoughtful.
Okay. Any other comments? Bill?
Yeah, I'm thinking about this is a hard recommendation, I guess, to follow in light of the Tachanun prayers that I've been saying, not during Hanukkah, but before Hanukkah, particularly in
Not guilty of saying this during Hanukkah, are you?
No, I'm not guilty of saying this during Hanukkah, chas v'chalila, nor on Rosh Chodesh, twice chas v'chalila, but particularly on Monday and Thursday with all of the additional paragraphs and everything, it's almost as if it was written by a Catholic priest from the old days, trying to drive home the idea of the basic sinfulness of humanity. I mean, the prayers, as I understand them, I've been reading some interpretive stuff from all of that. It's just asking God to save us from our own. Well, it doesn't really say foolishness, from our own evil or evil actions or evil thoughts and so on. So to consider it, to follow Rabbi Shimon's recommendation here means essentially, it seems to me, going against all of those Tachanun prayers. Now, I know that they're also directed to the community as a whole, but they also seem to be directed to one as an individual. So there seems to be a kind of a tension between his recommendation and the one set of the built-in, I'll say, required prayers of the traditional liturgy. Am I making any sense?
Well, I think that you're asking a fundamental question, is the way I'm hearing it, which is, how do we balance recognizing whatever limitations we have, whatever sins we have committed, whatever wrong things we've actually done? How do we balance the responsibility we have to be truthful with ourselves and recognize those things, and at the same time, not beat ourselves up?
Yeah.
I mean, the way I would translate this last phrase is, and don't beat yourself up.
Yeah.
But so what's the middle ground? If I don't beat myself up, then what do I say? Oh, I'm really the best. I'm such hot stuff. I never do anything
stuff.
wrong.
Yeah.
It's always everybody else's fault.
Yeah.
This is the famous Hasidic teaching: in one pocket, put a piece of paper,
Yeah.
that says the whole world was created
For me,
thing,
just for me.
right? Everything is all for me. And in the other one, in the other pocket, put a piece of paper that says, I am nothing but dust and ashes.
Ashes.
I'm nothing. So so you have to have that, and you stand in the middle. The two pockets are on the two sides, and you're the one that's in the middle. Jen.
I thought this was interesting from the point of view of the judge. I'm thinking of this as working in the office of a school, and we get to know the kids who are constantly with us. We know which ones don't have a conscience, which usually is only one or two every year that we have who have no conscience. Like, and you know, it's what it is. And sometimes they're little and cute, and sometimes they're older and still cute. But I feel like how a judge is naturally going to run into this phenomenon. They're going to know certain repeat offenders. And it is true that the judge would have to keep in their mind that just because they've done such and such in the past doesn't mean it was them this time. And we have that situation a lot. Like, yeah, I know this kid is probably, I'm not the disciplinarian, thank God. I'm just, you know, neutral to everybody and friendly to all the kids. But, you know, the principals have to think about this. And we have had the situation like, yeah, this kid is completely capable of having done this, but it might not be them this time. But for a judge to completely grant a clean slate, I think for a repeat offender is kind of unrealistic. I think they, you know, once you know somebody has an issue.
So maybe I shouldn't have brought up that other Mishnah because we're getting sidetracked.
Oh, I'm sorry. So maybe we shouldn't talk about that Mishnah. I'm sorry. That's what most struck me.
I'm going to clarify just with regard to that. The judge, let's imagine there's pre-sentencing and after sentencing, or not even just judgment. Is the person guilty of this offense or not? And then if they are guilty, what's the punishment? So that whole deliberation is finished. So the repeat offender, not repeat offender, character references, not character references, you know, all that stuff has been weighed, hopefully.
Yeah, but they're supposed to move forward, right? Without thinking of this again.
Whatever it is that is decided, then the judge is supposed to close the book and say, okay, I've done my job, that's it. And now good luck to both of them. And they have their lives to live. It is related to what we have here, because what I want to bring up in terms of our conversation here is that what, you know, the point is the sentence final? Is the sentence completely the last word on this person? And here what we're talking about is one's own self, judging oneself.
Okay.
I'm judging myself. And when Bill mentions Tachanun is prayers, petitions for forgiveness that are part of the traditional liturgy. They're not in the liberal liturgy, but in the traditional liturgy.
Yes. On Sunday mornings, I'm already like halfway through it when somebody says no Tachanun today.
What do you do if you're in it's called the filata payim. You actually fall on your face, at least symbolically, right? In other words, this is abject begging for mercy, right? And as the tradition says, you've tried everything, you've done everything, you've done your soul searching, you've done this and you're that, and then in the end you go, God, it's still all up to you. So I just throw myself at the mercy of the court. That's what the Tachanun is basically about. But that's the point. The point is that the Tachanun is, I have not given up on myself. I have not judged myself that I have no hope. I have the hope that I can throw myself at the mercy of the court, and the court will show mercy. The court will show me some love. I have to believe that I am deserving of love. And that's what this is saying. This is saying, don't be a convicted criminal in your own eyes, as if that's the last word about you, right? Which is, in our society, unfortunately, we do that too much, right? Anybody that's been, you know, put in jail, can they ever get a job again afterwards? It's like so hard because we just keep on labeling that person as lost. So
but from that point of view, so what if, say, I don't like, what if what you've done, like, say if I've wronged another person, and because of circumstances, there's no particular way for me to make it up. Like, how does praying to God actually alleviate that? How do you, because it's not between you and God. I mean, it is to an extent, but
Yeah, so
there's that other person involved that, you know.
So there's two aspects. There's what's between you and human beings and what's between you and God, right? And if there isn't a particular person that you can make amends with, then that's a very, very tough situation. Is it completely lost? And life is complicated. Life is complicated and life is richly complicated. How you respond to that failure of yours is not foreclosed simply because that particular person is no longer around. What is going to happen for the rest of your life with the way that you deal with other people, similar situations, not similar situations? What kind of payback to that you do in terms of your own involvement in the world? So that's that interpersonal level. And then there's God, who's also ticked off at you. How did you do this? You know, this is what I put you in this world for. So you got to talk to God too. And you're saying to God, you know what, I screwed up and I really did it badly. And I, you know, whatever. But what happens if what you screwed up about is a screw up? But you take that screw up and you magnify it and you blow it up. That's also what this is saying is give yourself a little bit of a break. Have a little bit, what do we say? We say, love your neighbor as yourself.
As yourself.
That assumes that you're loving yourself, right? So it's clear when we would be talking about somebody else that we should never, ever just like completely wipe that person, off any possibilities. The difficult ones that you talk about, the people that don't have conscience.
I should say that I actually like both of these kids. I mean, they don't give me a problem, and
this is going to be a look. I'm not. This is not a Pollyannish idea. It's not saying that there isn't tragedy in the world, and that there aren't psychopaths in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I would.
But if you're reading this thing, there's a good chance you're not a psychopath. There's a good chance. There's no guarantee. There's no guarantee because there are psychopaths all over the place, possibly.
My advice to everyone is, if you think you're dealing with a psychopath, don't get into a power struggle with them at all.
Absolutely. They're very frightening. But in 99.9% of the cases of humanity, you're not dealing with a psychopath. So then, people even, let's say, who are incarcerated for the rest of their life without parole, do they have hope? Is there a possibility for them to somehow make a life that's better than that one particular awful crime that they may have been guilty of? The answer is most of the time, yes. Most of the time, yes. And when people become, totally lacking hope and they could turn into animals as a result, and they do things that are awful, does that mean that hope can never be restored? Can you hope in the possibility of hope? And that's what that's what the Torah says again and again and again. Yes, there's going to be this, we're going to work on it forever, but it's there. It's there. We had a little bit, very, very fast conversation at the end of last time about how this relates to the previous teachings. And we've been getting some, talking in pretty heavy stuff here, but this idea that one judges oneself to be unworthy or broken, or just, I'm not capable of this, is one of the very common ways that people get themselves off the hook of trying to actually take traditional religion seriously. Jews are the best at this. The idea of trying to pray, for instance, you can hear, "Are you kidding? This is not me." And this is a tricky kind of question. When do you have a sense of, this is who I am, and I have a sense of dignity about it. I have a sense of this is who I honestly am. And when have you convicted yourself of something and accepted it without giving yourself another chance? And nobody can actually decide that except the person themselves, if they can. And sometimes they can't. Sometimes it is possible for another person who knows the other person intimately, deeply, to be that extra reflecting voice, to sort of call them out on it, or encourage them, or give them a good slap in the face, metaphorical. Intervention, right, is what the word is sometimes for people who are going the wrong way and can't stop themselves. But we make excuses that we're not capable of things, and this ultimately is about we are capable of all kinds of things, both negative and positive. There's a Hasidic saying, it's often attributed to Rav Nachman of Bratslav, but it's sometimes attributed to others. If you can believe that you have the power to ruin things, then you must believe that you have the power to fix things. So if you've got that sense that, I'm just a screw up, or I can't do this, this is way beyond me, I don't, I can never learn Hebrew, and I can't do this, and I can't do that. If you believe that you have the power to mess things up, then that power of messing things up is completely tied to the power to fix things up as well. It's the same power. It's exactly the same power. So this is what he's trying to say. You can, if you want to, right? If you want to. That's the mystery of that point. But not beating yourself up, I think, is truly fundamental for so many of us. All right. Anything else on this one, Sarita?
Sarita's saying something.
There's a chat here. Relating to the earlier part of the teaching, you might think you cannot adequately pray, but don't be so hard on yourself. If you keep trying, you will be able to. Okay, so that's an important point. I want to just modify that a little bit and say, if you keep trying, you will be able to. If you keep trying, maybe that's all that you need to do. Maybe there's no such thing as you will be able to. But the trying is what it's all about. Try it. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually, if I can hold on a second, I'm going to no, I'm not going to do that. I messed that up, and now I have to somehow get out of it. Hold on a second, please. And no, that's not what I wanted. Okay, forget it. I'm sorry, I was going to read a text to you, but I lost it. I read to you a text last time, so I'm just going to have to tell it over. I have it someplace, and I thought I was going to screen share it. The story that I read a prayer for you last time of a shepherd that was illiterate, and therefore what he said to God was, "Look, God, I can't pray. I don't know how to pray. I don't know how to recite all of the prayers I'm supposed to. But I just want you to know, I'm a professional shepherd. This is how I make my living. I get paid to watch the flocks. I love you so much. If you would ask me to watch your flocks, I would do it for nothing." That was his prayer. So that prayer is part of a longer story which I was going to read to you in Sefer Hasidim, a medieval work from the beginning of the 13th century, 1200s. And the story is that this shepherd would do this every day. And a sage, a rabbi, was walking by and heard the shepherd doing this and said, said to the shepherd, what kind of prayer is that? Why don't you say the Shemona Esrei? Why don't you say the Shema? Why don't you do what you're supposed to do? And he says, don't do that prayer. I'll teach you the right prayers. So he teaches him the right prayers, and then he goes off. And one night he has a dream. We're in the middle of all the Torah readings with the dreams. One night he has a dream, and the dream, he has an angel of God comes to him and says, thanks a lot. You've totally destroyed one of the most precious moments that I have, because this shepherd that used to give me such beautiful prayers, now I get nothing. And as a result, you're dying, within the week or something like that. I don't remember all the details. So anyway, he gets all shook up. He wakes up, he runs, he goes to the shepherd. He goes, what's going on? And the shepherd said, you know what? After you taught me that, but then I really couldn't remember how to do the Shema and the Amidah the right way. And I felt like I really couldn't say the prayers that I used to say, because you told me that they weren't any good. So I don't do anything anymore. So then the rabbi said, I take it all back. Forgive me, please. Please say the prayer that you were saying. Just say that prayer. That's a precious prayer. That's a prayer that's full, from your heart. And forget about all the nonsense that I tried to foist upon you. And don't beat yourself up. Right? So that's the end of that story. So all right, with that, I want to wish everybody a happy Rosh Chodesh and a happy Hanukkah. And everybody's invited at 5:30 if you want to come by to celebrate with everybody else. Okay, see you next week.
Good Rosh
I'm going to miss the
Chodesh.
next class, everyone, because I'm seeing my mom, but have a great next class
good.
and happy Hanukkah. Bye-bye.
All good things.
Stay safe, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.